Well, hello, and welcome to 42 Days in Japan. My name is Brandon, also known as Get Lost Brandon, according to YouTube down there. And, well, me and my family have been traveling to Japan since the early 2000s, so quite a while now. And so on this specific trip, why did we choose 42 days in Japan? And it's because my wife actually wanted 90 days in Japan, but 42 days was all I was going to agree to. And so, in a marriage, you have to compromise, and so that's what we did. Beyond that, though, this is going to be a semi-educational travel series. I'm going to share with you the places that we went, the foods that we ate, the hotels we stayed at, and we're even going to throw in some language tips for you in case you happen to be planning your own trip to Japan in the future. We hope that those will help you out a lot because, honestly, that's the hardest part of traveling to Japan is the language barrier. On a side note, though, this is going to be a family-friendly trip. My kids traveling with us are ages 10 and 1. Which is just honestly a complete recipe for disaster. Okay, so on this trip, we chose to fly on ANA Airlines. We're flying out of Portland. Of the 3 airlines that I have used to fly to Japan, they have been my favorite, mostly because as soon as you step on that plane, you feel like you're already in Japan. They serve Japanese food for the meals. They have a lot of collaborations, so a lot of their infomercials are actually Pokemon, and it's kind of just more fun that way. If your plane happens to crash, they're telling you right now that you're going to be greeted by a bunch of Pokemon who will whisk you away safely away from the burning wreckage to your airport. It's just the best service you can ever have in Japan. So highly recommend ANA. I really trust Pokemon to save my life. Oh, this part's actually really important. That there's my bag. That's 50 pounds of motorcycle gear, which I dragged all over that country. Right there. That's it right there. That thing right there. That's it. That's the one. Well, beyond that, though, ANA was a great airline. I would really recommend flying them. So on this specific trip, we flew Alaska, connecting to Seattle. Seattle was a short layover, and then we were off to Haneda Airport. No big deal. It's all good. Very quiet, too. Kind of like a Japanese train, just people are quiet on the plane, usually. Unless you're bringing a 1-year-old and a 10-year-old. That's my bad. Sorry, everybody. I'm sorry. Anyways. So our first hotel was a Hotel My Stay. That's pretty much just right next to the airport, Haneda, because we were usually on a 12-hour flight. So the first thing you do when you get to Tokyo is you just want to go to bed. The jet lag kicks in and it's just straight to bed. So it was 4 o'clock in the morning our time when we got there, and this is only about 2 stops away from Haneda Airport. So I recommend it for that use. It's a great hotel pit stop. About the hotel itself, though, my favorite thing about this hotel was the floor bed that it comes with. We were sleeping with a toddler, and this bed is actually very comfortable to begin with anyways. It's a nice, I think they call that the Japanese Western style, where it's on the floor, but it's a nice comfy mattress like you're used to in the West, and so it's in between. But the room was great. I actually could stay in this room pretty much in any hotel and would be very happy with this room. So like I said, we're going to spend the day in Shinagawa. And Shinagawa is just a quiet little town just south of Tokyo, really. It's barely, you could call it part of Tokyo, but I would say that's kind of a disservice to Shinagawa. But it's a very quiet town. We got up at about 5 o'clock in the morning, which is pretty typical your first day. Your sleep schedule's way off. Nothing was open yet, so we went to the park. good way just to, parks are always open, right? So we just had some fun. And this is a literal mud kitchen where people would just get covered in mud for fun. Check out the mud pit. Yeah. So for breakfast, we went to Komeda Coffee. This is a national breakfast chain across Japan. There's about 800 locations nationwide, so you can find them anywhere. It's basically a diner. To order first, you would push this button over here, right there. And that'll bring the waiter over. And they do have an English menu available, so pick your food first, summon the waiter, and then just point to what you want and put up one finger. That's the easiest way to order. I ended up ordering an egg sandwich and a Komeda blend coffee. And fun tip here is if you order a drink, you get a sandwich or breakfast set for free. It comes with your drink. That's why it's so expensive to begin with, is it's intended to be a set meal. And if you'd like to try ordering food in Japanese yourself, to order the same thing that I ordered, you would just say something like, Tomago sando, hitotsu, to Komeda blendo. It's basically the same thing. All I said was egg sandwich and coffee, Komeda blend, right? Hitotsu just means one of them. It's not as hard as it looks. Give it a shot. So after breakfast, we headed over to Heiwa No Mori. That means the peaceful forest. And this is basically just like a Ninja Warrior adventure course. Costs about 700 yen to get in. And they got about 40 stations that you can challenge yourself at. Anything from, rope swings to log bridges. They've got a wooden bucket that you can even paddle around like a kayak. It's kind of fun. And some zip lines and other stuff too. So if they're open, basically just walk up to the front gate. There's a vending machine by the office. You just buy an adult ticket in that and help yourself. It's self-guided. Now over in the cafeteria, it's pretty common in Japan to have these drink bars, which are, they're just fancy fountain drinks. We have them in America too, of course. But because they have different flavors, I wanted to try something different. And this time I had melon Coke. And this is what it would look like if you actually push the English button. So what does melon Coke taste like? Let's find out. Tastes like melon soda. But I had to mute the audio. Well, that's it for this episode. Make sure to check out our next episode because we're going to Disneyland. Woohoo! Okay, so just on the topic of, where are we going to go on this trip? For starters, we're going to generally avoid the Tokyo proper area for the most part. We'll kind of skirt around it a little bit, but generally I'm going to avoid a lot of the more touristy areas in Japan that are well known. I've already done most of them multiple times over the last 20 years, and so I don't need to keep repeating that in this trip. I also just really enjoy exploring places that are less traveled than usual. So that's kind of the course of the trip. We also, on every trip to Japan, have to visit Shikoku, which is, my wife calls her hometown. She spent about 3 years studying abroad in Japan, and the first of those years was in the city of Matsuyama. South of that city is a small town of Iyo, and that's what she calls her hometown. And so every trip we make a point to visit that small town, and so this trip is no different. Beyond that though, let's take a quick look at the map of where we're actually going, and you might get a quick preview of the overall trip over 42 days before we get there.